They say silence is golden, but for Roman Reigns, silence just got deadly. For agonizing weeks, we, the ardent observers of the WWE Universe, have watched with bated breath as the seemingly impenetrable fortress of the Bloodline began to exhibit visible fissures. We saw the family, once an unyielding monolith of power, slowly but irrevocably fracture. And at the heart of it all, the tribal chief, Roman Reigns, stood with a stoicism that was both awe-inspiring and unsettling, a titan seemingly immune to the chaos swirling around his self-proclaimed dynasty. He commanded, he conquered, he demanded loyalty, and for a long time, he received it without question. But last night, at the precipice of destiny, at Money in the Bank, a single, brutal act transcended mere in-ring drama, shattering the very foundation upon which Roman's empire was built. It wasn't a rival faction, nor a disgruntled champion seeking a shot at the throne, that delivered the blow. It was Jacob Fatu, a name whispered with reverence and trepidation within the sacred halls of the Sikoa family, who unleashed a savage, unprovoked assault on Solo Sikoa. The shockwaves ripped through the arena, through the digital airwaves, and directly into the collective consciousness of every fan watching. Solo Sikoa, the loyal enforcer, the silent, unwavering shield of the tribal chief, was laid waste by the very blood that flowed through their shared lineage. In that single, horrifying moment, the sacred vow of the Bloodline, the defiant mantra of We the Ones, was not merely challenged. It was irrevocably shattered into a million fragmented pieces, not by an outsider's hammer, but by a blood relative's betrayal. This was not just a skirmish, this was a seismic shift within the most dominant faction in modern wrestling history. And now, the man who meticulously constructed an empire on the bedrock of unwavering loyalty, the undisputed Universal Champion, Roman Reigns, has finally, devastatingly, broken his silence. The silence that once spoke volumes of his power and control has been replaced by words that carry the weight of vengeance, revelation, and possibly, utter devastation. What will he say? What will he do? The WWE Universe, collectively holding its breath, understands the gravity of this moment. Because when Roman Reigns, the tribal chief, the head of the table, speaks, the world doesn't just listen, it trembles. And this time, the consequences of his words and his subsequent actions are poised to be nothing short of catastrophic, redefining not only the Bloodline but the very landscape of professional wrestling itself. The immediate aftermath of Jacob Fatu's brutal ambush on Solo Sikoa at Money in the Bank left an indelible scar on the collective psyche of the WWE Universe. It wasn't just another surprise attack, it was a breach of the most sacred trust within wrestling's most dominant faction. For months, the Bloodline, under Roman Reigns' iron-fisted rule, had operated with an almost cult-like devotion, their internal squabbles meticulously managed, their external rivals systematically crushed. Solo Sikoa, in particular, had emerged as Roman's unshakable enforcer, a silent, menacing presence whose loyalty seemed beyond reproach. His very existence within the Bloodline was a testament to Roman's unwavering control, a younger, stronger arm of the tribal chief's will. To see him fall, not to an established rival, but to a cousin whose presence in WWE had, until that moment, been largely relegated to the shadows of rumor and speculation, was a stunning subversion of expectation. This video is not merely a recounting of events, it is a forensic examination of the profound implications of Roman Reigns' shattered silence. We will embark on an unprecedented deep dive into the motivations behind Jacob Fatu's shocking, calculated actions. Was it a desperate bid for recognition, a long-simmering resentment bubbling over, or something far more sinister, the strategic maneuver of a hidden puppet master? We will dissect the immediate, painful fallout for Solo Sikoa, whose unwavering loyalty was repaid with brutal violence. What does this mean for his standing within the crumbling Bloodline? Has this ordeal forged him into an even more hardened weapon for Roman, or has it planted seeds of doubt and disillusionment? Furthermore, we will meticulously trace the seismic shifts now tearing through the Bloodline. The cracks that began with Sami Zayn's heartfelt betrayal and widened with the Usos' rebellious defiance have now become gaping chasms, threatening to swallow the entire empire. This isn't just a wrestling storyline, it's a modern-day Greek tragedy unfolding in real time, a brutal family drama where loyalty is a currency, and betrayal carries the ultimate price. What does this mean for Roman Reigns' reign as tribal chief? Is his authority now irrevocably compromised, or will this crisis serve as a crucible, forging him into an even more ruthless, unchallengeable figure? And critically, what are the implications for his undisputed Universal Championship? With his family in disarray, is his coveted title now more vulnerable than ever before? The weight of the tribal chief's throne has always been immense, a gilded cage of power and expectation. Roman Reigns didn't just become the tribal chief, he willed it into existence through unparalleled ruthlessness and a relentless demand for unwavering loyalty. Every step of his journey, from his initial embrace of the head of the table moniker to the systematic dismantling of his own cousins, has been calculated, agonizing, and ultimately, effective. The sacrifices he has made, the bridges he has burned, were all in service of consolidating power, ensuring the bloodline's dominance was absolute. He absorbed every slight, every challenge, and transformed them into fuel for his empire. This level of control, however, also meant that any rebellion, any act of defiance from within, felt not just like an attack on his authority, but a personal affront, a violation of a sacred trust. The Usos' eventual defection, while painful, was somewhat understandable, given their long history of being subjugated. But Jacob Fatu's attack on Sikoa, the embodiment of Roman's unwavering will, strikes at the very core of Roman's meticulously constructed reality. It forces us to ask, is this a betrayal born of deep-seated familial resentment, or is it a sign that Roman's aura of invincibility is finally, truly, beginning to fade? Roman's previous silence, during the many preceding storms, had always been a tactical masterstroke. It allowed the chaos to fester, the speculation to mount, before he would finally emerge, calm and composed, to deliver a scathing rebuke or a chilling declaration that reset the narrative in his favor. It was a calculated calm, a strategic delay designed to maximize the impact of his eventual words. But this time, something felt different. The prolonged silence after Solo's brutalization wasn't just suspenseful, it felt ominous. Was it a sign of genuine shock, a rare moment where the tribal chief was caught truly off guard by the depth of the betrayal? Or was it, as some speculate, a manifestation of a deeper, darker plan, a strategic maneuver of such intricate complexity that it required an unprecedented period of contemplation? What unspeakable thoughts were swirling behind those usually impenetrable eyes? Has Roman's calculated silence now been irrevocably replaced by a volcanic rage, poised to erupt with devastating force? We will delve into the psychological aspect of Roman's silence, dissecting whether it was a deliberate tactic to let Fatu reveal more of his hand, or a profound moment of vulnerability for the man who seemingly has no weaknesses. The tribal chief has always been a master manipulator, but has he finally been outmaneuvered by someone from his own bloodline, or is this merely the calm before a storm of Roman's own making, a storm designed to obliterate anyone who dares to question his supremacy? As we peel back the layers of this unfolding saga, prepare for an unexpected conclusion, a revelation that could completely alter your perception of not just Jacob Fatu's motivations, but the very nature of the bloodline itself. We will hint at the possibility of layers of deception so intricate they could only be woven by a master strategist. Could there be unforeseen alliances at play, figures from wrestling's past or present lurking in the shadows, pulling the strings of this familial conflict? And what about a hidden history between Roman Reigns and Jacob Fatu, a long-forgotten grievance or a secret pact that makes this betrayal even more poignant, more agonizing to witness? The narrative thread of this story is not straightforward, it twists and turns, revealing new facets with every passing moment. We promise an unparalleled deep dive, connecting dots you never knew existed, and exposing truths that could reshape the entire WWE landscape. This isn't just about a wrestling match or a championship title, this is about the soul of a dynasty. The bloodline, once a symbol of unbreakable family unity and undisputed power, now stands on the precipice of utter collapse, its foundations rocked by an internal tremor. The stakes have never been higher for Roman Reigns. His credibility as tribal chief, his control over his family, and indeed, his very legacy, are all on the line. The roar of the crowd after Fatu's attack was not just one of shock, but of an unsettling realization that something truly profound had just transpired. The whispers in the locker room, the theories among the pundits, and the frenzied discussions across social media all point to a singular truth: nothing will ever be the same. The next few weeks, and indeed, the coming months, will be pivotal. Roman Reigns' words will carry immense weight, but his actions will speak even louder. The catastrophic potential of this situation is undeniable. Will he retaliate with unbridled fury, sacrificing familial bonds for ultimate dominance? Or will he, in a shocking twist, attempt to mend the fractured pieces, only to discover some wounds run too deep to heal? This isn't merely a segment or a storyline, it's a defining chapter in Roman Reigns' legendary, albeit controversial, career. It's a testament to the enduring power of family drama, played out on the grandest stage of them all. So, as we prepare to venture deeper into this tumultuous narrative, I urge you to stay with us. Every moment, every revelation, every nuance will build towards a climax that promises to be both emotionally resonant and explosively impactful. The tribal chief has spoken. The silence is broken. But the true story, the raw, unfiltered truth of what comes next for Roman Reigns and the shattered bloodline, has only just begun. The echoes of Fatu's assault still reverberate, and the consequences of Roman's words are about to unfold before our very eyes. This is not just a wrestling story. This is a saga of power, loyalty, and the ultimate betrayal, where the bonds of blood are tested to their very breaking point. The current seismic tremors within the bloodline are not spontaneous occurrences, they are the culmination of years of meticulously built dominance, punctuated by increasingly visible cracks in its seemingly impenetrable facade. To truly grasp the significance of Jacob Fatu's attack on Sikoa, we must first revisit the architect of this dynasty and the subtle, then overt, signs of its eventual unraveling. Roman Reigns' transformation into the tribal chief was less an evolution and more a calculated, ruthless reinvention. For years, he was positioned as the WWE's quintessential babyface, a strong, silent hero meant to carry the torch. Yet, a segment of the audience resisted, a chorus of boos often greeting his appearances. It was a struggle against perception, a battle against an organic reaction that WWE struggled to quell. Then, in the summer of 2020, following a brief hiatus, Roman Reigns returned with a vengeance, aligned with Paul Heyman, and debuted a new, darker persona. This wasn't just a heel turn, it was a fundamental shift. He was no longer trying to be the hero. He embraced the villain, the undisputed top dog, the one who took everything he wanted. His initial declaration of being the tribal chief wasn't immediately accepted by his family. Jey Uso, in particular, was the first to openly defy him. This set the stage for a brutal, emotionally charged storyline that saw Roman systematically break Jey, both physically and psychologically. The I Quit match at Hell in a Cell 2020, where Roman forced Jey to acknowledge him by brutalizing Jimmy Uso, was a pivotal moment. It wasn't just a win, it was an act of subjugation, a public declaration of his absolute authority. This established the blueprint for his reign: loyalty would be demanded, and dissent would be crushed with ruthless efficiency, often targeting the very people he claimed to protect. With Jey firmly under his thumb, Roman began to build his empire. Paul Heyman, the special counsel, became his voice, his strategist, and his shield, insulating him from the demands of the outside world. Sikoa, a quiet but undeniably powerful force, eventually joined, further solidifying the enforcement arm of the bloodline. He was Roman's silent sentinel, often appearing out of nowhere to tilt the odds, his unwavering loyalty a stark contrast to the initial hesitations of the Usos. Roman's reign was characterized by long, dominant championship defenses, strategic alliances with figures like Brock Lesnar, briefly, before betrayal, and a narrative that consistently emphasized his unparalleled status as the head of the table. He broke records, he crushed legends, and he made it clear that his era was one of undisputed, singular power. His ambition was boundless, and his methods, though often cruel, were undeniably effective. He wasn't just winning matches. He was psychologically dismantling his opponents and, more importantly, his own family, ensuring their subservience to his vision. Despite the outward appearance of an unbreakable unit, the cracks in the bloodline began to show long before the recent implosion. These were subtle at first, often dismissed by Roman as insubordination or a failure to acknowledge him properly. The Usos, despite their eventual allegiance, often displayed moments of hesitation or frustration under Roman's oppressive thumb. There were instances where Roman's orders were questioned, or where the Usos seemed to act independently, only to be reined in by a cold glare or a condescending remark from their tribal chief. One of the earliest signs of internal friction was the clear imbalance of power. Roman was the undisputed leader, dictating terms, making decisions, and reaping the majority of the glory. The Usos, while champions in their own right, were always seen as secondary, their achievements often overshadowed by Roman's presence. This dynamic, while initially accepted out of fear or respect, undoubtedly sowed seeds of resentment. Moments of tension arose during tag team matches or during backstage segments where Roman's patience wore thin, and he would verbally admonish his cousins for perceived failures. These weren't full-blown rebellions, but rather subtle displays of discomfort, glances exchanged between Jay and Jimmy, or fleeting moments where they seemed to chafe under the weight of Roman's expectations. Even Solo Sikoa, the most loyal of the enforcers, occasionally exhibited a flash of independent thought, quickly suppressed by Roman or Paul Heyman. These were quickly smoothed over, presented as learning opportunities or moments where Solo's dedication to the family was being tested. However, in hindsight, these early instances served as precursors to the larger betrayals. They established a pattern of dissent, however minor, being met with an iron fist, reinforcing Roman's dominance while simultaneously creating a breeding ground for future defiance. The pressure cooker environment that Roman created, where absolute loyalty was the only acceptable state, was inherently unstable, and the eventual explosions were almost inevitable. Every subtle sigh, every hesitant step, every whispered conversation between the Usos was a tiny fracture in the grand design of the bloodline, hinting at the larger schism to come. No single storyline exposed the inherent vulnerabilities of the bloodline quite like the saga of Sami Zayn. What began as a comedic interlude, with Sami attempting to ingratiate himself with the faction, morphed into a profound narrative about acceptance, loyalty, and ultimately, betrayal. Sami Zayn, the honorary Yus, found a place within the bloodline that resonated deeply with the audience. His earnestness, his genuine desire to belong, and his unwavering dedication to Roman, Solo, and especially Jey Uso, created a powerful emotional connection. He brought an unexpected levity and humanity to the otherwise cold and calculating bloodline. Sami's inclusion tested the bloodline's unity from within. While Solo Sikoa and Jimmy Uso eventually warmed to him, Jey Uso remained initially resistant, reflecting his own past struggles with Roman's demands for loyalty. This internal dynamic was crucial. It showed that the bloodline was not entirely monolithic, and that personal relationships could supersede strict adherence to Roman's doctrine. The bond between Sami and Jey, in particular, grew organically, becoming a source of genuine warmth amidst the faction's usual brutality. This made Sami's eventual betrayal at the Royal Rumble 2023 all the more devastating. When Roman Reigns ordered Solo Sikoa to assault Kevin Owens after the Royal Rumble match, Sami Zayn, unable to stomach the senseless violence against his longtime friend, intervened. His striking of Roman Reigns with a chair wasn't just a physical act, it was a profound declaration of moral defiance. This act shattered the illusion of unbreakable loyalty that Roman had cultivated. It wasn't an external attack, it was a severing from within, by someone who had become so deeply integrated into the family's fabric. Sami's expulsion, swift and brutal, served as a chilling precedent. It demonstrated that Roman's wrath for betrayal was absolute, regardless of the emotional investment or past contributions. The Sami Zayn storyline laid bare the psychological impact of defiance on Roman. He had been so confident in his ability to mold and control, that Sami's genuine, morally driven betrayal shook him. It showed that his system wasn't foolproof, that genuine human connection could supersede his enforced loyalty. The parallels between Sami's betrayal and Jacob Fatu's attack are striking. Both involved an unexpected strike from someone Roman considered family, or at least, under his domain. Sami's act, however, was born of moral conviction, a choice against brutality. Fatu's, on the other hand, appears to be an act of raw, unbridled aggression, its motivations shrouded in far greater mystery. Sami's rebellion created a crack, Fatu's attack has blown the wall apart. The emotional reverberations of the Sami Zayn saga were profound, leaving Roman more isolated and perhaps, unknowingly, more vulnerable to the next, even more devastating internal strike. Building on the foundation of Sami Zayn's departure, the Bloodline's descent into full-blown civil war accelerated with the eventual, and entirely predictable, rebellion of Jey and Jimmy Uso. While Sami's betrayal was a moral stand, the Usos' defiance was a direct challenge to Roman's authority, born from years of subjugation and the increasingly unbearable weight of Roman's tyrannical rule. Their motivations were clear: a desire for independence, a reclaiming of their own identities, and a rebellion against the emotional and physical toll Roman's leadership had exacted. The tension between Roman and the Usos escalated to a fever pitch, leading to the dramatic Bloodline Civil War match at Money in the Bank 2023. This match, where Jey and Jimmy defeated Roman and Solo, was a symbolic victory for the Usos, a moment where they finally, definitively, broke free from Roman's control. Their joy, however, was short-lived. The ensuing months saw Jey Uso move to Raw, seeking to escape the toxicity of his family, while Jimmy remained, seemingly trying to navigate a path between his brother and his tribal chief. The emotional toll on Roman Reigns during this period was palpable, though often hidden behind his stoic facade. Each defection chipped away at his aura of invincibility, questioning his narrative of being the unchallenged head of the table. The betrayal by his own cousins, the very people he had claimed to elevate, was a personal wound. It forced him to rely more heavily on Solo Sikoa and Paul Heyman, consolidating his inner circle even further. Jacob Fatu's attack on Solo Sikoa differs from the Usos' rebellion in its sheer brutality and its unexpected nature. The Usos' defiance was a slow burn, culminating in a clear, narrative-driven conflict. Fatu's attack was a sudden, violent eruption, a calculated ambush that struck at the heart of Roman's remaining loyal core. It wasn't a challenge for power from a recognized member of his inner circle, but an utterly blindsiding assault from a ghost of the family past, adding another layer of shock and urgency to Roman's now shattered silence. The night of Money in the Bank was supposed to be another notch in the tribal chief's seemingly endless belt of dominance. While Roman Reigns himself wasn't scheduled to compete, the very air of the event crackled with the lingering tension of his absence and the implications for his bloodline. The shadow of his power stretched even across continents, influencing every match, every decision. For Solo Sikoa, however, the night was meant to be a showcase, a reaffirmation of his burgeoning status as Roman's most trusted and brutal enforcer. Instead, it became the stage for a betrayal that will forever haunt the annals of WWE history. Solo Sikoa's journey within the Bloodline had been one of quiet, almost terrifying, ascent. When he first arrived on the main roster, plucked from NXT by Roman Reigns to aid in his victory over Drew McIntyre at Clash at the Castle, he was an enigma. Unlike his charismatic brothers, the Usos, Solo was a man of few words, his presence communicated through menacing glares and devastating, unyielding force. He was Roman's silent sentinel, a stark contrast to the often verbose Paul Heyman. His role quickly solidified as the tribal chief's enforcer, the one who executed Roman's will without question or hesitation. Where the Usos had shown flashes of independence, Solo's loyalty was absolute, seemingly carved in stone. Over the preceding months, Solo had become indispensable to Roman's reign. He was the equalizer in countless situations, always there to deliver the decisive Samoan spike or a devastating Uranagi when Roman's back was against the wall. He had been instrumental in keeping the Usos in line, even during their tumultuous rebellion, often finding himself caught between his brothers and his tribal chief. He was the one who consistently put the family's needs, or, more accurately, Roman's needs, above his own. His ascension wasn't just about winning matches, It was about embodying the ruthless, unyielding nature of the Bloodline's power. He was Roman's chosen successor in brutality, the heir apparent to the enforcement arm of the dynasty. His matches were often short, impactful, and designed to showcase his raw power and unwavering dedication. The build-up to Solo Sikoa's match at Money in the Bank, though perhaps not the main event, carried significant weight. It was an opportunity for Solo to further cement his standing, not just as Roman's muscle, but as a legitimate, formidable force in his own right. The exact opponent and stakes of his match were crucial, designed to elevate his profile and reinforce the idea that even in Roman's physical absence, the Bloodline's presence and power were undeniable. It was a chance for Solo to prove his worth, to demonstrate that the trust Roman placed in him was well-founded, and that he could handle any challenge thrown his way. Little did anyone know, the true challenge wouldn't come from his advertised opponent, but from the shadows of his own family tree. As Solo Sikoa made his entrance, the air in the arena was charged with a different kind of anticipation than usual. While the spotlight often followed Roman Reigns, Solo had cultivated a reputation for unadulterated brutality, a silent storm of destruction. His match at Money in the Bank was, in many ways, a microcosm of his role within the Bloodline, efficient, impactful, and designed to demonstrate dominance. He faced a formidable opponent, a veteran with a penchant for resilience, pushing Solo to showcase not just his raw power but also his tactical acumen. From the opening bell, Solo moved with a predatory grace, his eyes locked onto his opponent. He employed his signature blend of power moves and methodical wear-down tactics. Each Samoan drop landed with a sickening thud, each headbutt resonated with a primal force. There were moments when his opponent mounted a strong offense, pushing Solo to his physical limits. One sequence, in particular, saw Solo absorb a flurry of strikes, his face contorted in a grimace of pain, hinting at a rare vulnerability. He momentarily stumbled, perhaps showing the fatigue of constant battles and the immense pressure of upholding Roman's legacy. This brief struggle, however, only served to highlight his resilience, as he quickly recalibrated, his eyes narrowing with renewed focus. He shrugged off submission attempts with brute strength, powering out of holds that would have crippled lesser men. His defensive maneuvers, though less flashy than his offensive ones, were a testament to his ingrained understanding of combat, honed by years of training and countless Bloodline brawls. There was a palpable sense that Solo was not just fighting for himself, but for the honor of the family name, for the tribal chief who watched from afar. Every move seemed to carry the weight of Roman's expectations, driving Solo to push past any pain or exhaustion. The match progressed with Solo gradually gaining the upper hand, his methodical destruction wearing down his opponent. The crowd, initially perhaps divided, began to acknowledge Solo's sheer power, a quiet respect for his unrelenting force. He delivered a series of punishing blows, culminating in his signature Samoan spike, driving his thumb into his opponent's throat with clinical precision. As his opponent crumpled, Solo pinned him, his face devoid of emotion, a stoic victor. It was a decisive win, another testament to his unwavering loyalty and formidable skill. He had done his part, he had delivered, and the immediate implications suggested that the Bloodline's enforcement arm was as strong as ever. Or so it seemed. The quiet confidence in the arena, the satisfied nods from those who followed the Bloodline, belied the cataclysmic event that was about to unfold, shattering any sense of normalcy. The moment of the attack was not telegraphed, it was a sudden, violent intrusion that ripped through the post-match calm like a jagged knife. Solo Sikoa stood in the center of the ring, his arm raised in triumph, the referee having just counted the decisive 3. The crowd was a mix of applause and murmurs, processing the straightforward victory. There was no ominous music, no distorted video package. Just a flicker of movement from the entrance ramp, a shadow that seemed to materialize from thin air. Then, he appeared. A figure, powerfully built, moving with a feral intensity that instantly commanded attention. His eyes held a cold, unwavering focus, a dangerous glint that spoke of raw, unadulterated aggression. This was Jacob Fatu. For many in the WWE Universe, the name might have rung a faint bell, whispered in online forums, spoken of in hushed tones by wrestling purists who followed the independent scene. But to see him, to feel the visceral threat of his presence, was an entirely different experience. He was dressed in dark, unadorned gear, emphasizing his physique, and his movements were fluid, almost predatory. He didn't walk to the ring, he stalked, a cheetah closing in on its prey. The commentators, initially bewildered, stumbled over their words, trying to identify the unexpected intruder. Who is that? Is that a member of the Inouye family? The questions hung in the air, unanswered, as Fatu rapidly closed the distance. Solo Sikoa, still basking in the glow of his win, perhaps momentarily letting his guard down, turned just as Fatu slid into the ring. The attack was swift, brutal, and utterly without mercy. Fatu didn't exchange words, he exchanged blows. His initial assault was a flurry of strikes, each one carrying the weight of years of pent-up aggression. He launched himself at Solo with a suddenness that caught the enforcer completely off guard. A devastating superkick connected flush, snapping Solo's head back. Before Solo could even register the impact, Fatu followed up with a barrage of rapid-fire punches, targeting Solo's midsection and head. The sheer ferocity of the attack was unlike anything Solo had faced from within his family before. Fatu then hoisted the formidable Solo Sikoa onto his shoulders with shocking ease, delivering a thunderous Samoan drop, a move deeply rooted in their family's heritage, but executed with a malicious intent that stripped it of any familial respect. The impact echoed through the arena, a sickening thud that silenced the remaining murmurs of the crowd. But Fatu wasn't done. He moved with a chilling determination, grabbing a steel chair from ringside, its cold glint reflecting the arena lights. He didn't hesitate. With a primal roar, he swung the chair, not once, but twice, 3 times, each blow raining down on Solo's prone body with savage precision. The sound of metal on flesh was sickeningly clear, sending shivers down spines. Solo, caught completely unawares and overwhelmed by the unexpected, brutal assault, could only writhe in pain, unable to defend himself. The crowd erupted into a cacophony of gasps, shouts, and bewildered roars. This wasn't a planned interruption, this felt like a genuine, visceral act of violence. The commentators, usually composed, were visibly shaken, their voices rising in pitch as they desperately tried to make sense of the carnage unfolding before them. My God! It's Jacob Fatu! What is he doing? The question hung heavy in the air, dripping with disbelief. Fatu then picked up Solo, who was barely conscious, and delivered a devastating Fatu splash from the top rope, crashing down onto Solo's chest with bone-jarring force. The impact was designed to inflict maximum damage, a statement of intent etched in pain. As Fatu stood over Solo's crumpled form, his chest heaving, his eyes still burning with an unholy fire, the message was clear. This was not a warning, it was an execution. He surveyed the destruction he had wrought, a chilling, almost satisfied smirk playing on his lips, before calmly, deliberately, walking back up the ramp, his form disappearing into the darkness from which he came. The brutality, the unexpected nature of the assailant being a blood relative, and the sheer force of the assault left the entire arena, and indeed the WWE Universe, in a stunned silence. It was a moment that redefined shock, painting a grim picture of the Bloodline's future. In the immediate aftermath of Jacob Fatu's brutal ambush, the scene in the ring was one of profound devastation and disbelief. Solo Sikoa lay motionless, a crumpled heap amidst the remnants of what should have been a triumphant moment. Medical personnel rushed to his side, their faces etched with concern, a stark contrast to the usual controlled chaos of a post-match segment. The ringside doctors immediately began assessing Solo's condition, their movements urgent and precise, highlighting the severity of the unprovoked assault. Solo's body was visibly bruised, and the impact of the steel chair shots had left angry welts on his back and side. His eyes fluttered, indicating a deep level of disorientation, and he struggled to even push himself up. The bewildered reactions of the commentators echoed the sentiment of fans worldwide. They replayed the footage, their voices filled with incredulity, dissecting every brutal detail of Fatu's calculated violence. Social media exploded, a torrent of theories and questions flooding timelines. Why Fatu? What does this mean for Roman? Is Solo okay? The collective shock was palpable, a testament to the unexpected nature of the betrayal. This wasn't just a physical attack, it was a psychological blow to the very core of the bloodline. But perhaps the most glaring and perplexing aspect of the immediate aftermath was the conspicuous absence of Roman Reigns. The tribal chief, the self-proclaimed protector of his family, the man who preached unwavering loyalty and demanded absolute subservience, was nowhere to be seen. Where was the head of the table when his most loyal enforcer, his silent sentinel, was being brutalized by a blood relative? The questions hung heavy in the air, fueling rampant speculation. Was Roman genuinely unaware? Unlikely, given his notorious omnipresence and the high stakes of money in the bank. Was he caught off guard to such an extent that he couldn't respond in time? Perhaps, but it seemed uncharacteristic for the man who always had a contingency, always had a countermove. Or was his absence a calculated decision, a chilling, tactical choice to allow the attack to unfold, to let the world witness the brutality, perhaps for a purpose yet unknown? This last theory was the most unsettling, hinting at a darker, more manipulative side of Roman Reigns, one willing to sacrifice even his loyal enforcer to achieve a greater, more sinister objective. The fact that Solo Sikoa was left vulnerable, isolated in the ring, while Roman Reigns remained absent, spoke volumes. It questioned Roman's commitment, his protection, and ultimately, his authority. How could he demand absolute loyalty when he wasn't there to defend it in its darkest hour? This absence fueled the narrative that the bloodline was truly fractured, perhaps beyond repair. It suggested that Roman stoicism might not be a sign of strength, but a mask for a deep-seated vulnerability, or even a callous disregard for those beneath him. Solo Sikoa, the loyal enforcer, lay beaten and broken, while the tribal chief remained in the shadows, his silence now more deafening than ever, amplifying the chaos and uncertainty surrounding the fate of the bloodline. To fully comprehend the depth of Jacob Fatu's betrayal and the weight of Roman Reigns' silence, one must first navigate the intricate, sprawling branches of the Onoi family tree. This lineage is not merely a collection of relatives, it is a wrestling dynasty, a tapestry woven with threads of shared blood, immense talent, legendary rivalries, and an unspoken code of honor and ambition that has shaped generations of performers. Understanding this kinship is paramount, as Jacob Fatu's attack is not just an assault on an individual, but a direct affront to centuries of heritage and the very foundations of the tribal chief's authority. The Onoi family is arguably the most influential and prolific wrestling family in history, its roots tracing back to the legendary Reverend Imichuanai Onoi and his brother Peter Maivia. This lineage has produced an astonishing number of Hall of Famers, world champions, and iconic figures across multiple generations and promotions. The family's influence is so vast that its members often refer to themselves as a tribe, bound by an unbreakable bond of blood and the shared pursuit of excellence in the squared circle. At the very top of this familial hierarchy, for the purposes of modern WWE, sits Roman Reigns, born Lady Joseph Onoi. He is the son of Sikoa Onoi, one half of the legendary Wild Samoans tag team, and the nephew of Afa Onoi, the other half. This direct lineage immediately places him at the heart of the original foundational strength of the family's wrestling legacy. Roman's claim to the tribal chief moniker is rooted in this direct connection to the family's traditional elders and his subsequent, unprecedented success. His cousins, Jimmy and Jey Uso, real names Jonathan Solofa Fatu and Joshua Samuel Fatu, are the sons of Rikishi, Solofa Fatu Jr., another prominent member of the family, and the brother of Umaga, Edward Smith Fatu, and the late Rosie, Matthew Onoi. The Usos' relationship with Roman has been the core narrative of the bloodline, highlighting the complexities of family hierarchy and the struggle between individual ambition and collective loyalty. Their eventual rebellion, while painful for Roman, was a direct result of their history of being controlled and overshadowed by him. Solo Sikoa, Sefa Fatu, the youngest of the Usos brothers, and another son of Rikishi, represents the next generation of Onoi dominance. His quiet demeanor, devastating power, and unwavering loyalty to Roman made him the tribal chief's ultimate enforcer. He was the one who Roman could truly rely on, the one who executed orders without question, seemingly immune to the family squabbles that plagued his elder brothers. His presence within the bloodline was a testament to Roman's ability to command absolute obedience from his blood relatives, a stark contrast to the defiance of Jimmy and Jay. Now, we introduce Jacob Fatu. Born Jacob Samuel Fatu, he is the son of Umaga, Edward Smith Fatu, making him a first cousin to Jimmy, Jay, and Solo Sikoa, and a first cousin once removed to Roman Reigns. This kinship is crucial. Fatu is not a distant relative. He is a direct bloodline member, deeply entrenched in the same branch of the family tree as the Usos and Solo. His father, Umaga, was a dominant, destructive force in WWE, known for his relentless aggression and intimidating presence. This legacy of intensity and unbridled power flows directly through Jacob. His attack on Solo Sikoa, therefore, is not an external attack but a deeply personal, deeply familial assault, a violation of the unspoken code of family protection that binds the Onoi dynasty. It raises profound questions about rivalries and alliances within the family, suggesting that the tribe is far from the united front Roman Reigns has always projected. For many mainstream WWE viewers, Jacob Fatu's sudden, violent emergence at Money in the Bank was a stunning, almost out-of-nowhere shock. Yet, within the broader landscape of professional wrestling, particularly the independent and international circuits, Jacob Fatu is anything but a forgotten force. He is a formidable, highly respected, and legitimately feared competitor with a track record of brutalizing opponents and holding championships. His reputation precedes him for those who have followed his career outside of WWE. Jacob Fatu's most prominent work prior to his WWE debut was with Major League Wrestling, or MLW. He joined MLW in 2019 and quickly rose to prominence, becoming the MLW World Heavyweight Champion, a title he held for an impressive 819 days. This reign cemented his status as a dominant main event talent, showcasing his incredible athleticism for a man of his size, his innovative offense, and his chillingly intense demeanor. He wasn't just winning, he was decimating, often employing a savage, relentless style that paid homage to his father, Umaga, but with his own unique, almost acrobatic twist. His matches in MLW were characterized by a blend of raw power, agility, and a willingness to unleash chaotic violence. He utilized moves like the moonsault, the handspring moonsault, and the pop-up Samoan drop, demonstrating a versatility that belied his imposing stature. He was often accompanied by other members of the Contra Unit faction, further solidifying his image as a dangerous, unpredictable force. His promos were rare, but his actions spoke volumes, leaving a trail of destruction in his wake. Why then was he off the radar for many WWE fans? Simply put, the vast majority of WWE's audience primarily consumes WWE programming. While there is a healthy independent scene, MLW, though respected, doesn't command the same global reach or spotlight. Therefore, Fatu's arrival was a genuine surprise for a significant portion of the audience, which amplified the impact of his sudden debut and immediate act of aggression. This deliberate choice by WWE to keep him out of the public eye until this precise moment was a stroke of genius. It ensured maximum shock value. The significance of his sudden appearance cannot be overstated. It wasn't a gradual build-up, it was an immediate, impactful statement. He wasn't introduced as a new signing. He was unleashed as a weapon, specifically targeting Solo Sikoa. This entry point immediately established him as a major threat, not just a new face, but a direct, violent challenger from within the very family Roman Reigns claims to command. His past reputation as a brutal, unpredictable champion outside of WWE now lends immense credibility to his current actions, suggesting that this is not a one-off attack, but the arrival of a dangerous, long-ignored force ready to stake his claim on the Onoi legacy. Being an Onoi in the wrestling world is not merely a matter of birth, it is a legacy, a burden, and a privilege. The name itself carries immense weight, steeped in decades of championship reigns, groundbreaking innovations, and a tradition of fierce family loyalty. From the Wild Samoans to Rikishi, Umaga, Yokozuna, The Rock, the Usos, Roman Reigns, and Solo Sikoa, the Anoa'i family has consistently produced top-tier talent. This heritage, however, comes with an almost unbearable pressure. Every member of the family who steps into a wrestling ring carries the collective history on their shoulders. There's an expectation of greatness, an implicit demand to live up to the legendary figures who came before them. This pressure can fuel incredible ambition, driving individuals to push themselves to their limits. It can also, however, breed deep-seated resentment and a desperate need for individual recognition within the shadow of such overwhelming success. For Jacob Fatu, this pressure would have been particularly intense. His father, Umaga, was a singular, iconic figure in WWE, a destructive monster with a distinct character and memorable feuds. While Jacob has carved out his own impressive career outside of WWE, the ultimate proving ground, the biggest stage, has always been the one where his cousins and Roman Reigns dominate. Could Jacob Fatu's attack be a desperate grab for his own piece of the Anoa'i legacy on the biggest stage? A violent declaration that he, too, is a force to be reckoned with, perhaps even surpassing those who have previously taken the spotlight? This question delves into the complex psychology of familial competition. Within any large family, especially one as successful and high-profile as the Anoa'i dynasty, there are always unspoken rivalries, desires to prove oneself, and the yearning for individual validation. Roman Reigns, by establishing himself as the tribal chief and demanding acknowledgement from all family members, effectively placed himself at the pinnacle of this hierarchy, a position that would inevitably breed envy and discontent among those who felt equally, if not more, deserving. Jacob Fatu's sudden and brutal assault on Solo Sikoa was not just an act of violence, it was a profound statement about lineage, power, and defiance. It suggests a challenge to the established order, a rejection of Roman's supreme authority, and a violent declaration of his own claim to power within the Anoa'i family. It highlights the inherent instability of a dynasty built on forced loyalty and raises the terrifying question: what other forgotten or overlooked members of the Anoa'i family might now emerge from the shadows, fueled by resentment and a desire to dismantle the current tribal chief's reign? The weight of the name, for Jacob Fatu, might not just be a legacy to uphold, but a legacy to violently redefine. The most bewildering aspect following Jacob Fatu's brutal assault on Solo Sikoa at Money in the Bank was not just the attack itself, but the immediate and profound silence from Roman Reigns. For days, the WWE Universe held its breath, expecting an immediate, furious response from the tribal chief. Yet, only an unsettling quiet lingered, fueling speculation and raising a critical question: was this silence a calculated, tactical masterstroke, a deliberate chess move in Roman's complex game, or was it, for the first time in a very long time, a genuine sign of weakness, a moment where the tribal chief was truly stunned and perhaps vulnerable? In the world of professional wrestling, especially for a figure as dominant as Roman Reigns, every action, and every inaction, is scrutinized. When Jacob Fatu launched his savage assault on Solo Sikoa, the immediate, almost instinctual expectation was for Roman Reigns to appear. To emerge from the back, to cut a scathing promo, to send a clear message that this transgression would not stand. After all, Roman has meticulously cultivated an image as the head of the table, the protector of his family, the one whose word is law and whose wrath is absolute. His entire reign has been built on the premise that he is always in control, always one step ahead, always ready to enforce his will. The weight of this expectation was immense. Fans clamored for his reaction on social media, pundits debated his whereabouts on talk shows, and the WWE locker room itself must have buzzed with whispers about the tribal chief's uncharacteristic absence. When a family member, particularly a loyal enforcer like Solo Sikoa, is brutalized on such a public stage, the leader's immediate response is paramount. It defines their authority, their commitment, and their strength. Roman's silence, therefore, was not merely a lack of words, it was a profound statement in itself, a deviation from his established pattern of immediate, often brutal, retribution. The pressure wasn't just internal to the WWE narrative. It was external, from a fanbase accustomed to immediate gratification and clear declarations from their top stars. Roman Reigns had conditioned his audience to expect a swift, decisive reaction to any perceived threat. His previous responses to betrayals, whether it was Sami Zayn's strike or the Usos' defiance, had always been direct, even if calculated. His silence this time was a glaring anomaly, leaving a vacuum that was quickly filled by fear, confusion, and theories ranging from incapacitation to a master plan too intricate for immediate revelation. The world watched, waited, and wondered, had Roman Reigns finally met a challenge that genuinely left him speechless, or was this calculated silence a sign of a deeper, more terrifying chess move yet to be revealed? To understand Roman Reigns' silence, we must delve into the very core of his tribal chief persona. This character is not one prone to impulsive outbursts. Instead, Roman operates with a calculated calm, a stoicism that has become his defining characteristic. He rarely raises his voice in anger. His displeasure is often conveyed through a cold stare, a dismissive wave of the hand, or a quiet, chilling pronouncement. He has mastered the art of psychological warfare, often allowing his opponents to unravel themselves, to exhaust their emotional reserves, before he strikes with precise, devastating force. His reputation for being unflappable, for maintaining an almost unnerving composure even in the face of chaos, is a cornerstone of his dominance. When the Usos defied him, he didn't immediately launch into a tirade. He allowed the tension to build, the doubt to fester, before systematically dismantling them. When Sami Zayn's loyalty wavered, Roman observed, tested, and ultimately, delivered a brutal rejection. His power lies not just in his physical prowess, but in his ability to control the narrative, to dictate the terms of engagement, and to project an aura of absolute certainty. Therefore, his silence after Jacob Fatu's attack could be interpreted through this lens. Was it a deeper, more profound display of his calculated nature? Perhaps he was allowing Fatu to expose his full hand, to reveal any hidden alliances or motivations, before he delivered a response that would be all the more impactful. By not reacting immediately, he denied Fatu the immediate satisfaction of a provoked response, perhaps even hoping to draw out accomplices who might emerge if they believed Roman was truly vulnerable or incapacitated. This strategic delay would be entirely consistent with a character who views the entire WWE landscape as his personal chessboard, where every piece is moved with deliberate, long-term intent. However, the alternative, and more unsettling, interpretation is that this silence was a rare, genuine moment of being caught off guard. For a man who prides himself on anticipating every move, on being the ultimate strategist, Fatu's attack was a complete blindside. The brutality, combined with the familial betrayal from a supposedly forgotten relative, might have genuinely shocked Roman to his core. Could it be that the layers of psychological armor he has built up over years finally cracked, revealing a sliver of vulnerability? The idea that the tribal chief, the undisputed champion, could be truly stunned, truly without an immediate answer, is a terrifying thought for his loyalists and a tantalizing one for his enemies. This analysis of his persona leaves us with a stark choice: was it the ultimate display of control, or the first real hint of losing it? To discern the true nature of Roman Reigns' current silence, it's beneficial to examine his past moments of apparent quietude during tumultuous periods of his reign. Roman has, on several occasions, employed a period of non-response, allowing situations to simmer before delivering his decisive blow. Consider his initial feud with Jey Uso for the tribal chief acknowledgement. After their first brutal encounter at Clash of Champions, Roman allowed Jey to lick his wounds, to consider the weight of his words, before forcing the definitive "I quit" match at Hell in a Cell. This wasn't an immediate verbal tirade, it was a cold, calculated waiting game, designed to break Jey's spirit before he even entered the cell. The outcome was a total subjugation, a testament to the power of his strategic patience. Similarly, during the most strained periods with Jimmy Uso, after Jimmy had rebelled and repeatedly questioned Roman's authority, there were stretches where Roman would simply glare, or turn his back, allowing Jimmy's words to hang in the air, creating an uncomfortable silence that spoke volumes of his growing disdain. He rarely engaged in shouting matches. Instead, he would retreat, observe, and then strike with precision, often through solo Sikoa, or with a chillingly calm verbal takedown. These silences were never about indecision, They were about allowing his opponents to dig their own graves, about letting the pressure mount, before delivering a final, crushing blow. However, the silence after Jacob Fatu's attack feels distinctly different. In previous instances, the threat was internal but largely understood, a family squabble escalating. Fatu's emergence was from outside the immediate bloodline narrative, a sudden, brutal intrusion from a previously unacknowledged threat. This wasn't a slow buildup of defiance, it was a sudden, violent eruption. Did these past strategic silences always work? Largely, yes, in terms of Roman getting what he wanted. But they also fueled resentment and ultimately led to the very rebellions he sought to prevent. The Sami Zayn saga, for example, saw Roman's silence and coldness drive Sami to a moral breaking point. Therefore, while Roman has a history of strategic silence, the context here is unprecedented. This wasn't just defiance, it was a physical ambush on his most loyal soldier by someone who had been outside his direct control. This time, the silence might be less about setting a trap, and more about Roman genuinely processing the shock and horror of a betrayal that hits closer to home, and from a source he perhaps never truly anticipated. This deepens the mystery and elevates the stakes of his eventual response. Despite the compelling arguments for Roman Reigns being genuinely shocked, the prevailing theory among many observers centers on the idea of a strategic delay. This perspective posits that Roman's silence is not a sign of weakness, but rather a calculated maneuver designed to maximize the impact of his eventual statement and actions. It's a psychological chess move, allowing the situation to fester, the speculation to run wild, and the anxiety of his enemies to mount. By holding his tongue, Roman effectively controls the narrative, albeit through absence. He forces the entire WWE Universe to focus solely on his eventual response. Every passing moment of silence builds anticipation, creating an almost unbearable tension. When he finally does speak, every word will be dissected, every gesture analyzed, and every action scrutinized under a magnifying glass. This delay ensures that his address will be the most anticipated, most impactful moment possible, dwarfing anything Fatu might say or do in the interim. Furthermore, a strategic delay could be designed to gain valuable intelligence. By observing Jacob Fatu's subsequent actions and any reactions from other members of the Anoa'i family, or indeed, others within the WWE locker room, Roman might be attempting to uncover hidden alliances or motivations. Is Fatu acting alone, or is he merely the tip of a larger, more sinister iceberg? Roman, the master manipulator, would undoubtedly want to gather all necessary information before making his move, ensuring his counterattack is not just powerful, but surgically precise. The question that echoes throughout this strategic waiting period is, what intricate chess moves could the tribal chief be contemplating in this period of quiet? Is he letting the embers of chaos burn brighter, only to extinguish them with a tidal wave of his own making? Is he allowing Jacob Fatu to believe he has gained an advantage, setting him up for a spectacular downfall? This theory aligns perfectly with Roman's long-established character as a cunning, long-term strategist who views every conflict not as a sprint, but as a meticulously planned marathon. His silence, in this context, is not a void, but a powerful, charged void, filled with the unspoken weight of his impending, catastrophic retaliation.